Let me do something even better than that. Why don't you decide what it is you want to see in your constituency? You know, I can have a series of town meetings, and I'm going to need your financial support for this. Town meetings on parliamentary representation. Do you know how important that is? It has been a misunderstood subject for more than 52 years. I was speaking to a lady yesterday, and that particular personality has been voting for decades for the same political party. She called me aside and said, Professor, what do you think? From the time I was a child in this particular constituency, nothing has changed. I say, you mean to tell me not one major constituency problem has been solved in your particular constituency? And many of you seem to be in that same state of affairs where you have been voting for a particular party, or some of you may have voted for more than one particular party over a lengthy period of time. And yet you haven't seen any real tangible benefits as a constituent in that particular constituency. Now, Bahamians, there's something we can do about that. There is a particular party that has been in the legislative branch of the government. Well, let me just retract that. The legislative branch of the way we do things in this country. That is the Senate and the House of Assembly. Next year, they'll be there 70 years consistently. You gave that to that particular party. 70 consecutive years where they have had people sitting in that Senate, sitting in that House of Assembly. That's an unmatched record for any political party in the country. And I asked the question, out of all the constituencies they represented in the House of Assembly and in the Senate, well, you know, senators are appointed, 16 senators. What major constituency problems have been solved in all of those constituencies over that 70-year span? And here are the clear-cut benefits those constituents are now enjoying today. That is what you judge them on, nothing else. And I hear all kind of funny talk about this one who don't like this one, and this one got this, and that one got that. And damn it, you get so caught up with personality, you even ain't looking at the issues that affect you. And let me tell you this. Do you know how many people have lived and died in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas over that 70-year span who have supported that particular political party, hoping that things would get better? And in that 70-year span, they ain't seen nothing. That's what the woman telling me. This is a senior woman who has lived through the struggle from 67 right on up to now. So what has happened, Bahamians? Today we have more problems now than ever before in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We have to get things straight, Bahamians. We cannot continue living in a country where you continue to put personalities in the House of Assembly and in the Senate. Parliament consists of Her Majesty the Queen, a Senate, a House of Assembly. That's what your Constitution says. But this particular party has been there all that time. And you need to evaluate what that particular party has done for you over that 70-year span. You gave them the power. When that particular party was in government, massive landslide of seats. That's what you did as the electorate. The record is there to speak clearly about that. You mean to tell me all these funny things that have been knocking around for 70 long years have not been changed? The laws that are holding our people back, particularly statute laws. Now, constitutional law, that's a different kettle of fish. Because when the transition was made from a colony to a nation, that's when the then present administration made a mistake which has never been corrected 52 years later. Do you understand how serious that is? That is a very serious indictment against that particular administration. They started out good, yes, good intentions. Good intentions, one thing. Doing it by those who followed those original founders is another thing. But I want you to think about that, Bahamians. 70 consecutive years, sitting personalities in the House of Assembly, sitting personalities in the Senate. What have you got? I haven't even talked about the government side. I just talk about the representation now. And those people had the opportunity to pass laws. Parliament has the authority to pass laws. What laws did they pass? To make sure your life has improved over that 70-year span. Don't forget now, massive landslide of seats. So that particular organization has no excuse whatsoever to say they couldn't do anything for you because you gave them enormous power. And on top of that, they had the government. You know, the cabinet is the government. The cabinet has what? Overall direction, overall control of the government. That particular organization had the government for many times. Election after election after election. In fact, for the first run, 25 years and 9 months. Then it fell. That particular government fell. Then a new government came on the scene. And so the Bahamian electorate has been dancing between two political parties. The other political party has been there for more than 50 years. Consistently Bahamians. And you gave that particular party a massive landslide of seats. Bahamians, what are you doing? What are you saying, Bahamians? Does it make any sense? Let's look at the last two then. 35 seats and 4 seats for the opposition. That may have been the biggest number of seats for a particular political party, except maybe, yeah, that may be the most, yes. Because there was a time when it was 41, 42, somewhere around it. No, 49. It went all the way up to 49. Bahamians, we have got to wake up and learn sense. The problem with a lot of you is you don't even know your constitution. You just have been listening to political personalities tell you all kind of crap. You bought into it. We have suffered because you bought into it. May I have my guest on yet? Oh, he's there. Okay, Mr. Taylor, just hold on a minute. I'll come to you. So when I get rolling like this, I could go till the man come back. But Bahamians, tomorrow is going to be open line, and I'm going to go along this line about parliamentary representation and the government of the Bahamas. I know it's open line, but I can deal with this in depth because a lot of you do not understand how to choose parliamentary representatives. We have the Holy Bible right there to guide you. We have the Constitution right there to guide you. And you've ignored both the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas and the Holy Bible. What the heck you expect to happen? You just listen to the garbage and the trash and the crap that has been put out by different personalities. And it's happening right now as I speak to you, Bahamians. That's not a good thing. You have to make wise choices. And let me say this before I bring my special guest on. Look what is happening around the world, Bahamians. Please look at what is happening. There are some nations that have fallen. Well, at least they tried democracy. We had it from 1729. Do you understand that? 1729 when the House of Assembly opened. September of 1729. And we have had a succession of administration from that time up to now without firing one shot. Do you know why that happened that way, Bahamians? In spite of the fact that you gave such political parties such enormous number of seats. And do you know we're worse off now in 2025 than we have ever been? In 1729, we didn't have that many problems, but we have a whole army of problems today in this country than ever before. That means we have to fix it. I don't like living in this crap. And I'm going to do what I can by the grace of God and with your strong financial support. It will get done. That's why I told you last July the 8th. You think I forgot it? Because I gave you 11 and a half months. And I say, choose one major constituency problem. We could have had that solved beyond the way with that. But you dilly-dally around, as you've been doing for the last 52 years. You complain, but you do nothing, Bahamians. Complaining is not going to solve the problems. You have to act on what the Constitution says. You have to act on what God says. That's where the answer is. And we have a lot of people on the radio talking a pile of crap about this particular person and that particular person as if they're gods. Did they blow breath into you when you up in time, Bahamians, because the enemy does not sleep. You just go to sleep. And you get lulled to sleep as if everything is okay. But it's not okay. It is its worse state than ever before. And the enemy is not letting up. Bahamians, wake up quickly. Listen to God, because he gives you very perfect, sound advice. You can never beat God when it comes to getting advice. And he makes it crystal clear and plain how we ought to go. And the same thing with the Constitution. You got people violating the Constitution for 52 years, and you want to give them more power? Come on, Bahamians. What the heck are you doing? You don't want a country then. You telling God you don't want this beautiful Bahamas? Is that what you're telling God? Are you telling our mothers and fathers who sacrificed so heavily to give us the best spot on the planet? Well, actually, God did that. The best spot on the planet, that's why all these funny people come in here talking about they want to be Bahamians. And they could never qualify to be Bahamians. Bahamians, we have to fix this time around, because it may be the last and final time that God will smile on us and say, I'll give you a break, get your house in order. Because see, when you keep forsaking God, you know what God can do? He can forsake us. That's what he will do. It's right there in the word. You forsake me, I will forsake you and your children. You see what happens to Sudan? You see what's happening in Haiti? You see what's happening in the Gaza Strip? You see what's happening in those countries in Central and South America? We got people parading on bikes, motorcycles. I'm going to get to you, Mr. Taylor. Just hold on a minute, because I want to get this out of my mind right now. You see people riding on motorcycles committing murder. This used to happen in Colombia with the judges. They ride up right on the side of the vehicle with the judge and shoot right through the glass. Shoot the driver. Shoot dead the judge. That happened in Colombia. Do you understand how serious that is? You have people riding on motorcycles right in this country. People are walking, going about their business, sitting in their cars, and bing, murder occurs. Is that what you want your country to be like? We got to stop it while we could bring it under control. But if we keep sitting down doing nothing, Bahamians, nothing will happen. We will keep going down the drain. We don't see any mass deportations out of this country. Every time I look around, I see a bunch of strangers and foreigners and aliens and outsiders talking about days payment. Ain't no Bahamian. If they're not like Professor Sidney Walter Thompson, they're not Bahamians. Because if every Bahamian was like me, we'd have never had any murder for 52 years. Do you understand how serious that is? Because we live by a certain standard. A nation under God has standards, Bahamians. We don't have to be putting up with all this crap. Armed robberies, you wouldn't have it in 52 years. But look what we have had. We got all kinds of strangers in here messing up our nation, and those whom you gave authority to run the place, just letting them run amok. That's why you got to do something about it. You have to organize yourselves. That's Article 24.1. To do what? To protect your interests, because those whom you gave the power to have not done it in 52 years. That's why we're in the predicament we're in today. And constitutional violation. Don't let me start on that. I'll talk till Christ come back. We have to stop people who are running this place from violating the supreme law of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. That has been going on for 52 years, from day one right on up to now. I have the proof, Bahamians. You can get it too, because it's available to you. Are you prepared to look at it? Are you prepared to be objective? Because this is the way you have to do it, Bahamians. And that is why you hear me ask those two questions about the constituency problems, and you hear me ask the question about national problems over the last 52 years as an independent nation. Bahamians, do not play games with your lives, with your children, with your mother, with your father. We got all kinds of strangers in here. We have to fix it, Bahamians. There's a way to fix it. You have to listen to God, and you have to listen to what the Constitution says. Not what this crap people write on scraps of paper and say, oh, they got this booklet or this manifesto or whatever else they call it. You've been doing that for more than 52 years, even when we were a colony. But Bahamians, that's the way it is. We got to fix it now. When we going to wake up and learn sense? You can wait till the whole thing falls in the hole and you can't get out at all. There is hope for the Bahamian people. God is still willing to work with us. But if we reject him, he will surely reject us. This is Professor Sidney of Walter Thompson. Now, we're going to go to a break. See, when I get started, I don't know when to stop. I could go on until the Christ comes back. But the point is, we have to do something about how this country is falling into a rut. And I'm right here in the midst of it. This is Professor Sidney of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break.
Let your voice be heard. Speak your mind and express yourself. Call in and participate at 326-0271 or 326-0272. WhatsApp us your concerns on 809-2310. Follow us live on Facebook and globalradio99.5fm.com. Express yourself.
This is Professor Sidney of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We're having some rain today. I got caught in it. And I'm grateful to be here alive and well. But this is how it happens some days. You get caught in bad weather. The weather was bad when I was about to come here, but I'm glad to be here safely. So you got to remember to pray for the professor, you know. The enemy is at work, Bahamians. I don't take nothing for granted. That's why I keep trusting in God. And I have to do what I have to do, and you need to do what God says you are to do. And if we all do and listen to God, because we're a nation under God, we can go forward. Of course, I have my special guest today, Mr. Van Dyke Bennett Taylor. He's out of Atlanta. And of course, we had an excellent discussion with him on Monday, and I invited him to come on the show again today. We were talking about President Donald Trump and what the invasion, if I might use that word, or attack that was done last Saturday in the nighttime on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran. And of course, the president said all 3 were obliterated. And he reinforced that is what happened. Now, of course, some other people have some other views on it, and they're saying, no, it didn't happen like that, what have you. But this is what you will hear. And of course, I understand there's supposed to be a peace treaty between Iran and Israel. And the president said that they will be talking with the Iranians next week. We'll see how that pans out. But the thing is, the Iranian representative also said that they have to be sure that Israel is going to keep their word. Well, I sure hope Iran keeps their word, because we understand from sources that they are persons who support terrorism. They bombed Dubai. How did Dubai get into this? And they've made some attacks on Israel. And of course, there are some who say Israel is the cause of what's going on in the Middle East. But we have to look at things objectively. Now you're going to have people on both sides pulling for the Iranians, some pulling for the Israelis. But that's the nature of human beings. But we have to get the facts, Bahamians. It is important that we understand what is going on, because that particular conflict can have serious implications for the entire world. We need to pay attention to it. Mr. Van Dyke Bennett Taylor, welcome to the state of the Global Radio Network. I got to get this in terminologies right now. Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. Express yourself on the Global Radio Network. Welcome, Mr. Van Dyke Bennett Taylor.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. Just want to thank you, Mr. Thompson, for having me here today. And well, basically, we just speaking on what's going on with Donald Trump and basically Israel and Iran.
That's correct.
And well, one of the latest news is that they was undermining the damage toll.
Okay.
To mainly one of the uranium enrichment site, which is considered the atomic energy site.
Yes.
That's the one that could do the most damage.
Yes.
And that's the one what they're gonna call Fordo. And what happened is why they having a lot of mixed emotion about it is because of the scientific analogy and some of the prediction on how deep the bomb could go, and compared to how deep the enrichment plant is. So they trying to question it, that they believe they are set back. But the defense intelligence in the United States, they said that they're going to be set back many months, meaning in terms of they have to do a lot of rebuilding to get it back to the standard, the operational standard that is. And that's like when something is destroyed underground, just like anyone else knows, that's not like being above ground. You have to do more work to get it back to where you want it to be.
Okay. Now the president said it was obliterated. When
Well,
it's in pieces. You can't put that back together.
Yeah. Well,
accurate?
I think he was speaking for all the sites together. And I think he exaggerated a little, being that the other site was really wiped out. So I think his thought process was that everything was wiped out compared to the smaller ones also. But what happened is the pilots was riding the B-2 bomber, which is the stealth. They said that couple of the pilots was riding like for years, and they said that's the biggest uh, explosion they've ever seen from a bomb what was ever even tested in their whole life. They've never seen so much explosion and fire coming from a bomb.
Okay,
Yeah.
now
So
I want to comment further on that because there were three sites.
yeah.
Now, the major one is the one that, quote unquote, has been damaged. Is that the understanding?
No, all of them.
Okay.
Well, the two, which is Asfahan and Natats, like those two was really not. They was completely destroyed because they normally like they're not really hidden too deep. They was completely destroyed. But the Fordo, that's the one
Okay.
what's in the mountain.
Uh,
It's underground, and they needed that the bunker bomb. And this bunker bomb, this only really goes up to 200 feet. But from my understanding, where the nuclear sites are is between 160 to 290 feet below ground.
okay.
So you have a bomb that is tested to go 200 feet, and then you have a site that is 260 to 290 feet deep. So, but with a bomb, that the difference between 90 feet won't really be too much once damage is present because everything else would be really falling apart, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
because I'm trying to understand. So they know how deep the uh, the situation was with this major site that was hit with these big bombs, and then the weight of the bomb was almost 30,000 pounds. Is that it?
yeah, they basically is 31,000 pound. They smaller bombs.
All right.
Yeah, the overall like these bomb is like they 30,000 pounds,
Yes.
but there's a variety of bombs that they send to it. It's not like one big bomb,
Okay.
but they send a variety of these bombs, which each one, like you say, is 30,000
thirty
pounds.
thousand pounds.
And
Okay.
yeah, and then on this operation they send 12 of them.
Wow, that's a lot.
So you have 12 30,000 pound bombs.
That's a lot.
So it's really hard to exist. Like
It is hard to
they
exist.
and they on one area they sent six of them. So
Okay.
just one area. So you can imagine one 30,000 pound bomb, and then you send six to one area.
That's a hell of a lot. And that was to the
Yeah. So
main site, what they wanted to knock out
yeah,
completely.
the main sites. Yeah,
Okay.
but they use these for all of them. So quick as they did the two sites, the two smaller sites, which is really moderate operation. Those site was completely destroyed.
Okay.
But the one below the mountain, because you have to search, you have to dig down in it.
Okay.
It's really hard to really confirm. But from scientific, background, and I think that site was damaged enough that it might have set them back like months or even years.
Okay. So, okay, now I have a better, clearer understanding now because in subsequent statements, the president was insisting that everything was obliterated. I remember we have the first statement that he made, but subsequent statements that he made was similar to the first statement that he made. Has he changed his statement that you know of in any way, shape, or form to coincide with what we now understand has happened? Or
Well,
hold on a minute. Or is he still insisting that they were obliterated?
what he did, he turned over the floor to the defense.
Yes.
Pete, his name is Pete Hagstep.
Okay.
He turned over the floor to him. He's the U.S. Defense Secretary in charge of all. anything with military and stuff he's in charge of.
Right.
So he explained to the general public on how they sent 6 of these bombs into just one area. So
Yes.
you have 6 30,000 pound bombs going into the same area.
Right.
And he said all of these, what they do, they go down. They don't explode until they hit the maximum depth, and
Okay.
then they explode. So what happened is, the Iran, they built it with 20 feet of solid concrete. And
Okay.
that ain't the regular concrete that's like with steel and force, all that. They have like 20 feet of straight concrete that these bombs have to go through. And that's what a lot of people was questioning, being that most of the tests is on regular ground.
Okay.
They're not testing on concrete when they test in these sites.
All
Yeah,
right.
so what they saying that now you remove the soft ground that they test these bombs on, and
Right.
now you dealing with concrete. But because they put 6 bombs and they have one after another hitting the site, that's what they saying. They saying, okay, one is gonna break through the 20 feet concrete, maybe another one gonna go further, and it won't stop until it gets down, and then it explode and
Right.
destroy everything. So
Right.
when the guy explained that, it makes more sense that it's a possibility that this site is unusable.
That is
It cannot be
that.
used. Yeah.
That is what I wanted to get clarity on, because that makes a little bit more sense. Because, like you said, they were tested on open ground, uh, not the particular situation like how the Iranians have with this shaft, with all this reinforced concrete. And that ain't no ordinary concrete where you just mix and build one house with. It's much stronger than that. And plus steel,
Yeah.
all the other things they have. So it's reinforced. So you send 6 30 pound, 1,000 pound bomb, that's 180,000 pounds of explosion. And you say they only explode when they hit the bottom where it's going, and then it explodes. So
Yeah,
obviously
when it stopped moving,
moving.
it
That's
just keeps going. It keeps going until it start to like just stay stationary, and
and it
they
explodes.
on a timer. The minute they stop the timer, and then it go ahead and explode. Massive explosion. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, the explosion is like it's is beyond, because these are 20 feet. This is 20 feet long bombs.
Okay.
This is no regular. These like 20 feet long bomb, and these have like over 2,400 kilograms of explosive, high explosive.
High explosive, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is like the higher level explosion, like on contact, it just like destroys everything inside.
Okay.
So now you have 6 of these, which it goes from 2,400 to like 2,400 times 6 of
Yes.
explosive.
That's right.
So now you have explosion after explosion. That's why the pilot said he's never seen no explosion like this,
Yes, he said that.
because you have one bomb, and then now you have 5 bombs with that one bomb, which is 6. So
Yeah.
so it's really, I'm leaning towards Donald Trump and the defense secretary,
Okay.
stating that maybe the site is unusable.
Well, with that kind of explosion, it would be very difficult to say that everything is intact. And if
Yeah.
anyone is down there, most likely they're not going to survive.
No, you
Because,
can't survive. You can't survive the type of, because
yeah.
these stealth bombers, the B-2 stealth bombers, that's the most unique bomber America have. And the bomb what America carry, very few people have these. They call them a bunker buster bomb. Like people who like to hide underneath, like how
Yeah.
Saddam. You see Saddam, he was in a bunker when they's looking for him.
Yeah.
Well, this goes where he hides, and pull him right out of there with some explosion.
Wow. Boy, this is something else. So you can't even hide like how you think you can.
No,
Yeah.
no, because what they do, they think of all your tactics.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So now let's look at it a little bit further. So, since they have this particular situation that has occurred, do you understand whether there's any further movement since they've seen how far the bombing did on last Saturday night? That's when it happened. What is the position now with the president and his defense minister in terms of any future action against Iran?
No, their main focus was just the targets. They had their precise intelligence, and they just focus on the targets only. Once those targets is destroyed, they could care less what they do further. They just they deal with more like the uranium type operation, because they're the ones what could you could send like Russia could send a bomb into Washington DC and wipe them out. They could send like 20 or 30 of them and wipe them out. So you want to stop that type of action that could basically destroy a whole nation.
Let
So
me,
you don't, yeah.
let me just ask you this question, because I think I asked my other guest the same question. Who determines who should have nuclear weapons? How is that determined?
Well, it's a treaty what they signed. It's a treaty what they signed. It's not that you have, it's not that you could have nuclear weapon. What happened is when you're making it, it has to be regulated. Like everyone have to come where you're making it, and then they inspect it and decide whether you should continue or break it down.
Okay, that's what I
So
understand. The
yeah,
agency
that's how
is
they do it.
doing that. The International Atomic Energy Agency supposed to be dealing with that. So they
Yeah.
were inspecting the sites that the Iranians would have had.
No, that's why they destroy them. It's a hidden site.
Oh, okay, all right, okay,
So
okay.
what happened is almost like that's what has created the war. What they do, they operate the site so you could think I have one bomb, and come to find out I'm running three operation. I could have maybe a variety of bombs,
Yeah,
and you thinking I'm coming at you with one bomb, and when you look, you find out something that I'm showing that I never had.
yes, okay.
So that's the main reason why they destroyed, because it's almost like you go ahead and you creating this bomb and I don't know about it. And the purpose is, why would you hide this if you have good intentions?
But that's an understanding that is reasonable. I don't have a problem with that. What role did the International Atomic Energy Agency had in relation to this? Now, you did say they were not able to report on it because apparently this was done secretly. But
Uh-huh.
you said a treaty has been signed by the nations as to who would have the authority to have nuclear weapons. Is that it?
No, not necessarily. Uh it's basically it's underneath, like a what they do, they monitor on the things which you're doing. It's almost like you reporting taxes, and you say, hey, we're doing this, and they decide whether you move forward or not.
Okay.
So when you do something without their authorization, now the question is, you creating a bomb and we have nothing to do about it. So what is your intention? And the logic behind it is going to be a bad intention. If you hide and making bombs, why would you do that?
Okay.
So mhm.
Well, Iran is accused of sponsoring terrorism. That's point number one.
Yeah.
Are there any other nations in the Middle East that have been prohibited from having nuclear weapons that you know of?
Syria.
Okay.
Syria also, yeah. They're another nation. And then you have not in basically the Middle East. There's only two of them. That's going to be Syria and Iran. And then you have Cuba, and then you have North Korea. Those Those are the ones that, yeah.
Okay.
And they're not just on United States list, they really on NATO's list.
Yeah, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Yeah.
Yeah, they basically they on everyone's list. So it ain't really America. America might just spotlight it more because they have more media attention.
Yeah, they
But
do. A lot of
but
media, no doubt.
yeah, but technically they underneath they sit down. That's why they sit down to the table so much. Because they try to, like you have to do financial connection, business, trade, all kind of stuff.
And it costs money to do these things.
Yeah, it do. It
Immense
do.
fun, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
so United States right now, they boost their security level up because Iran is famous for domestic terrorism.
yeah, that is what I understand with Iran. They use other tactics, terrorist tactics, attacking people, destroying property. Innocent people are dying as a result
Yeah,
of these attacks. And you have these particular personalities who are prepared to strap a bomb on their bodies, run into a crowd, just destroy people.
yeah,
Fanatics. These are not,
including themselves.
yeah, including themselves. Yeah, that's correct. These are fanatics, man. And these people are not prepared to live. And they have these weird religious beliefs in their head, thinking that they're going to get rewarded when they pass off the scene. And so when you're dealing with extremists of that kind, it is very, very dangerous. The question has to be asked, how then do you protect the average Iranian, the average Israeli, in terms of situations like this where it is quite possible that something can happen? Where do they fit in the equation? Because my understanding is, and this is why I'm trying to get further understanding on it, because if I'm in error, I want to be corrected. You have the leaders of Israel, you have the leaders of Iran, and it appears as if they have taken dictatorial action without any consultation with the Iranians or the Israelis. Because they say Benjamin Netanyahu is a strong-headed individual. And so the Israelis are really at his whim and mercy. Because remember, there have been some attacks and some Israelis have already died, even while they were bombing Iran. And then, of course, the president intervened, and now they have what is called a peace treaty or some arrangement for peace. And it remains to seen how long that holds up. But when the president told the people in Tehran to move out, a city of 10 million, where do you go, Vande? You tell the people to move out. Where the heck do they go? What provisions have been made for people? Same thing on the Gaza Strip. The Israelis tell people to move out. But where's their protection? Where do you move to? Because lives are constantly being lost every time you have these bad decisions being made. Because it doesn't appear as if it is in the interest of the average citizen in either country, which is many. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, they normally occupy uh, an area that is closer, that basically similar language, stuff like that. So Syria normally open is always be Syria or Afghanistan or Iran because they once was all together.
Yeah.
Especially Iran and Afghanistan, they speak the same language, even though they have a variety of language, but they understand each other languages. So people move from Iran to Afghanistan, Afghanistan to Iran and Syria and the surrounding areas. They do that a lot when they get into these wars and stuff like that. They
Yeah.
normally go, and then the same as like here in America when they had the flood in Louisiana, a lot of the people left Louisiana and came to Atlanta, Georgia,
Okay.
because Atlanta, Georgia is a quicker ride. They're not gonna be trying to walk and pass a whole city or state just because they don't want to be there, unless it's Israel. But if the place is like, if they practice in the Muslim religion, they normally gonna go from one Muslim religion to another. But the only problem is, like I told you, the Shiite and the Sunni, they two different. They
Two
have
different.
slight,
Yes.
yeah, they have slight different morals in what they believe in.
Yes.
Like the Shiite, they more extremists. They believe in, they want to kill for whatever reason,
Yes.
and that's the problem right there. That's the difference in the whole situation, with the in terms of the Muslim world, that is,
No, I
but
understand that. But there are some who are saying that the United States doesn't want necessarily a regime change in Iran. What do you understand that to be?
when they said that they don't want the regime change, they mean like in terms of the ideology of the government, not necessarily the government itself, but the culture of how they do stuff, how they do business and stuff like that. They don't mind you changing a political party, but they don't want the culture of the environment change. It's almost like the Bahamas. Like if we start like listening to like rap music all day and rap this, and we kill out soca and rake and scrape and what have you, our culture would change. And now it goes bigger than a political party. You changing the whole history of the country. So that's what they don't want them to do, because it might have a lot of backlash to it. So President Trump, he said, look, I feel as though the regime is fine, but if they want to change it, I'm fine with that too. So he say he's fine with it if they want to change government, but I don't think they want to change the culture of Iran, because if they change the culture, it might come with a lot of people disagreement and controversy around making a deal or something. That's the only thing. Because bear in mind, when you keep a regime, more than likely they all together. So it's like FNM and PLP, no matter whether they blue or red, they have the same ideology. You know, if they get in, you gotta make sure that they have enough money before they get in, if that makes sense. you know.
Yeah, the religion and politics
yeah,
was mixed. But
yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying. But we want to win. I think we're going to a break because I hear the music in the background. But I want you to think about this while we're on the break. About this, what do you understand about the proposed peace arrangement now? Do you have any information on what it entails and what is the United States hoping to achieve? I heard a statement from the Iranian diplomat about 3 or 4 times, and he's saying that if the other side is willing to do what they say, now I don't know what that's supposed to mean, because it would appear as if both sides will make statements and will not necessarily carry them forward, because the Iranians have been known to break their word. And the people on the Israeli side have been known to break their word too. This is the nature of governance in this wicked and evil society. So I want you to think about that while we're on the break. This is Professor Sid
Okay.
out of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. The lines are open 326-0271, 326-0272-813-0271. My special guest from Atlanta, Georgia is Mr. Van Dyke Bennett Taylor. We're looking at what happened last week, Saturday, when the United States decided to drop bombs on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. We'll be back after the break. Atlanta, Georgia, and we're discussing about what President Donald Trump did last week, Saturday, and the repercussions of that. What impact would it have for the Bahamas? We need to take that into consideration because when the President of the United States says something and he acts decisively, we have to take that very seriously. We shouldn't play around with that. They're only 30 minutes away from the Bahamas. And sometimes we don't stand up when we ought to be standing up and defending the interests of the Bahamian people. Sometimes it gets buried in with some other things from some other people. You have the Caribbean nations. And when you blend in with those other nations, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have relationships with other nations, but it would appear in many of the arrangements that we've been hearing our leaders getting themselves involved in, we seem to be left out. The Bahamian interest is being left out. Now we have to look at the implications of what the president has done. What are the implications for the Bahamian economy, the Bahamian political scene? Because, you know, we don't want anything like that happening in the Bahamas. We are small in number, and when we get rid of all of these foreigners, these strangers, these illegal aliens, it would be better for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because we can't have this flood of people coming in here like that. So when you have war breaking out and even some internal conflicts, you have people running to and fro, as Mr. Taylor told us what's happening in the Middle East. You have some other nations there. They themselves are struggling, Mr. Taylor, to help their own people. And yet, in Croatia, I think they went into another nation. If I'm not mistaken, it might be Poland, where the Russians started to bomb the people of Croatia. And it's been a terrible situation. So people just look for safety. And that's understandable to a point. But when a nation itself cannot take care of its own people, Mr. Taylor, how are they going to accept this mass of refugees? What kind of assistance can they give them? Mr. Taylor, you there? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the truth. Sometime these refugees, they come in all at once.
Yes.
And I mean, who could prepare for that? No one is sitting down saying that I hope you come in my country. I mean, you see what happened in Haiti.
Yes.
They was fighting over there and the same thing. So the only thing what you got to do is like really hold on to control. You might can't stop it, but you want to control the amount that comes in, because if you have too much coming, because when you have those refugees, bear in mind some of those people could be destroyed, and like devastating things to your country or what have you. So that's the only thing, like the control factor. You got to control that. But most of them, they set up a border, whereas those people can't just come in. Okay. They always set up a border that they have to go through straight military guys with weapons and everything. They're not gonna just come in a person country and, you know, to get in Iran or Afghanistan or Syria. Oh, you ain't. If you do anything crazy, it could be your life on the line, because them people, they don't play over there.
Okay, let us look at what we understand about the treaty, the proposed peace arrangement that is now in place between Iran and Israel. What do you understand is expected from this? I know it is still early in the game; it's not even a week yet, but it is still early in the game, and I'm wondering whether what that portends to be, as you understand it now. I know you can only go on by the information you have available to you. What do you see happening now? Now that there is this, but the last report I heard on the news is holding, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
The report is the peace arrangement is holding.
Well,
interpretation. So what I'm trying to figure out, what is it we expect to achieve from this peace arrangement between Iran and Israel?
Well, it's not really a peace arrangement. It's the peace arrangement only happens like after you come to the table. What they agree on short term is what they call a ceasefire, meaning that, okay, let's just stop what we're doing and we could think about how we're going to come to the table to create peace. So it's almost like you just stop shooting, but you still want to shoot, but you just stop shooting, but you're really not at peace with them. You just say, okay, we can ceasefire. And then what Donald Trump, he's going to speak with Iran to really come to peace. Yeah. And that's where the peace agreement is established, when you sit down at the table. Like, because the ceasefire is just like, they have like a 12-day ceasefire. So after this 12-day ceasefire, they could just start bombing again.
That's
if
the
they
problem.
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not really a peace. They're not at peace.
They're
They
not at peace
really
at this time. Okay.
no,
All
no.
right.
They just like agreed to stop shooting,
To stop
stop
shooting.
shooting weapons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And
Peace.
then what happened is when they sit at the table, like when Donald Trump speak to the president of Iran or one of the representatives, then they'll decide on how they're gonna move forward and not shooting guns and hurting people anymore. And that's when the peace comes in, the peace treaty comes in on the signature.
Oh, I get you. Okay. Well, that's understandable. So the talks would be between the Iranians, the Israelis, and the Americans. Is that the understanding?
No, no. Only Donald Trump and the guy from Iran is gonna speak. So you never could get two guys who at war to speak. That's like almost impossible. So what you do, you have to separate. It's almost like how they have the counseling with marriage. You have to separate them first, hear their sides, and then convince them to come together. Because if you try to like, okay, without giving them information and break them down, you can never get two people at war to sit at a table at the beginning. They could gradually come there, but for the most part, you could only speak separately and then they come together afterwards.
So let me understand you clearly now. You're saying that it is the president himself will speak with the leader of Iran. Is that the understanding?
Yeah. He'll speak with the leader of Iran or maybe one of its representative.
His representative.
Yeah, yeah. He'd speak because normally what they do, either they come or the representative come. And anytime they haven't feud, sometimes they like to send representative just in case someone trying to kill them.
Okay.
Yeah, they do that for safety.
So are there going to be this proposed meeting would be face to face, or this would be otherwise?
Well, it's gonna be face to face. All they mean like that, they be face to face. Which he and Donald Trump, he already established that look, he don't care if they agree with him or not. The only thing what he want is are you gonna stop with this nuclear program? Because that's the main thing. Are you gonna stop the nuclear program? And that's what he wanted a yes or no to. Because he said if they have to go back inside there, then they will go. But the the bombing will be much greater.
Yeah, but I
He
heard him
said,
say that. Yes, that is
yeah,
correct.
he said the
And he said
bombing
it's
would be
easier now for them to get in there since they're
yeah, because
weakened
he said
already.
yeah, that's what he said. No, well, he didn't say it like that. He said the war is really over. He said he said the war is over. It'd be in their best interest to come to the table. You know, yeah,
Okay.
that's what he said. Yeah, so that's the main thing, the ceasefire. So hopefully they get this deal done before the 12 days is up,
I would
and
hope.
they might start shooting again. In Russia always breaks. They always breaks the agreement. Like if they do, like in Russia, if they do 10 days, Russia starts shooting in 9. You
Okay.
know, yeah. So that's the thing with this ceasefire. This ceasefire is a tricky game, like what they play. But I think the effects they're gonna this gonna affect the country a lot, especially because Iran was about to stop the movement of the tanks of the oil passing through the passageway. They're about to
Yeah.
shut that off. If they shut that off, that's 20% of the world oil going through there. So if
Okay.
there's to stop that movement, then now the barrels of the oil would go up sky high. Because right now it's around $60 a barrel. And they said that it could go up from 60 to nearly $88 a barrel. So
That's
NASA
big.
might be around, yeah, NASA will be around $8, $9. And they're not gonna take that down, even if the barrel go down.
But
You
that's
know,
what I've
not
noticed. That's what
mhm.
I've noticed in this country, the Bahamas. We do not benefit one way or the other, whether the price goes up or whether the price goes down. We always seem to be getting the bad end of the stick, some excuse of one kind or another being made by the authorities. We never ever benefit, even when the prices go down. We do not see a drop in the price of fuel in this country. We just haven't. And I've watched that
No.
with interest. So, it goes down in the United States. It goes down right in Florida to sometime to 2 something, 3 something a gallon. We aren't getting any benefit like that. And we are 30 minutes out of Florida. I mean, what are we saying? Why is there such a vast difference in the price? And this is what the Minister of Economic Affairs mentioned. And I think I'm going to get my producer, if he could find that tape, because we heard him mention. And he's hoping for a speedy resolution. Do you see a speedy resolution in this conflict?
Yes, it have to be because oil is attached to it. So it's going to be a financial ruin to a lot of places.
Okay.
Because mhm.
But didn't I understand we're supposed to be getting new sources of energy?
Yeah, but that's
oil
like future.
still seems to be the major source of energy. All those agreements, from what I heard and understood, that the Prime Minister been signing in his office, even on Sunday when he's supposed to be in church, he said he's signing agreements for new sources of energy. But yet we have the oil playing a major role in this particular situation.
Yeah.
Someone has to be benefiting from it, right? Or some people.
Yeah.
But certainly not the Bahamian people. We're not benefiting one way or the other. You always feel the high cost of fuel in your pocket. The long lines you have to wait when you're trying to go from point A to point B. You could see your house down the road, but it takes you an hour and a half to get to it. And while you're in the road, you're burning out fuel. It costs you a lot just to put fuel in your car. So that is not a benefit. The government of the Bahamas has not yet found a way to bring down the cost of energy for the Bahamian people. But they say they're signing new sources of energy. But we're not benefiting from it.
Well, they did the solar. Yeah. So let me they did the solar. I know they spend massive money on the solar energy that goes on people's houses, and they try to implement them into the government system. But I understand that they have a lot of them on the islands and stuff unused. Some of these like energy saving materials, like they on the island somewhere in storage, unused.
Okay, that may very well be. But now we are hearing something else. The cost is going up now. People have already been complaining about their light bills. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars upward movement on the electricity bills. And this is a matter they discussed just recently. The government was talking about how the cost of energy is coming down. The Minister for Economic, not Economic, but the Minister for Energy. All right. I think Jobette Colby is her name. And the thing is that we've had this up and down talk about the cost of fuel. And they had settled to say that now they'd brought the cost of energy down. It's supposed to be falling even further. Now, right at this point in time in our country, we are having people complaining about the high cost of fuel, the high cost of energy. Electricity rates are going up. Gasoline rates are going up. So what are you saying? See, you can't tell me that the problem has been solved. Because if a problem is solved, Mr. Taylor, you get benefits from that problem having been solved. I've been saying that on this air for years. What benefits are you getting as a result of these energy problems being solved? I don't see where any tangible benefit, if any of the problems have been solved. It doesn't seem to me that anything has been done as far as solving the problem and people are able to have money in their pocket as a result of that particular major problem having been solved. And I always have a problem with the government of the Bahamas when you do not see any real tangible benefit at the constituency level, at the national level. So how could you tell me you solved something and you ain't see no benefit? Because this, if it is allowed to get out of hand, and see, we don't know what may happen, even though Mr. Donald Trump may make some decisions. You do not know what is in the mind of these other personalities who have dictatorial power, like Russia, like China. Okay? And I understand Israel has nuclear weapons. But the point is that these people have their own agendas. And they may sit at the table, they may sign the paper right there in front of them, and they sign what they want. They sign it. But yet, you find there's difficulty when it comes to keeping their word and putting it into practice. So you're right back to negotiating over and over again. Scripture says, ever learning, Mr. Taylor, ever learning and never coming to the knowledge of the truth.
Yeah.
This is what Scripture says. And you
Yeah.
see that in action with the leaders of this world. Ever learning and never. Man, how many times we didn't have meetings? We got
Yeah.
even in this country where you have a particular apex organization having meetings with ministry after ministry, minister after minister. Well, I say, well, what are the results of all these friggin' meetings, man?
Mm-hmm.
What benefit come to the average Bahamian citizen? That's what I want to hear. I can't get an answer. But we know, meeting. I went to the meeting on Friday with that big meeting with the Civil Society Bahamas. It's a good thing I was there. And I was the first one that spoke when they opened the floor. But some revealing things were made at that meeting. But we have to deal with these issues that affect the very lives of people, the Iranians, the Israelis, the Bahamians, the Russians, the Chinese. And China has over 1 billion people, 1.4 billion. That, at least that's the figure they put out there. And then you got many more in other countries. And it's a dictatorship. So they have this tremendous authority and tremendous power, and yet the people who they are in charge of are living in the slum. We have to look at these things. See, if a policy is in place, Mr. Taylor, and it does not benefit the overwhelming majority of the people of that country, it's not a good policy. It means nothing because it only benefits a few. What do you say to that?
Yep. They said that if you see a government is really strong when the people rejoice.
Exactly.
Like if you see the people is not rejoicing, is obviously you're doing something wrong.
Of course.
And that's the thing.
That is a harsh reality, and I'm going to be campaigning on that tomorrow. I'm going to talk about that because a lady asked me a question. In the particular constituency she's been living in, she said, Professor, I've been doing this all my life, voting for this particular political party. And say, as a child, I haven't seen any change right up to now.
Mm-hmm.
But then what are you voting for? What is the purpose of leaders?
Mm-hmm.
What is their responsibility? When I look at scripture, I see leaders supposed to be sacrificing for their people. Following the example of Jesus Christ, who gave his life. Do you know of any leaders in this world giving their lives? Do you think the Iranian leaders are giving their lives for the people of Iran? Do you think the Israeli people are giving their lives? Do you think Donald Trump, let's use him then, Donald Trump of the United States, is he giving his life for the Americans? Yet he say he can make America great again. What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
So you listen to the statements they make. Watch what they do. But is he prepared to be the sacrificial lamb for the American people? Is the leaders in Iran prepared to be the sacrificial lamb for the Iranian people? Because the people are
Yeah.
supposed to be benefiting. And I don't see that happening. I don't see any evidence of that. I look for that even in our own country, and I don't see it. What I do see is a proliferation of problems. The people in Iran got more problems now. The people in Israel, same thing. In spite of all of these arrangements, in spite of all of these meetings, in spite of all of these decisions that are being made, where people sit around the table and say they can make decisions. But the people themselves are not involved. And I think that's one of the missing links. Consultation. You know the word consultation? That's a dirty word in this place.
Yeah. So,
Even
because
when the law says you are to consult, the people say we ain't consulted with nobody. They just do it, Taylor.
yeah,
And this is what we need to wake up to. People in different nations around the world. We don't want a situation to develop where we have the authority to prevent it from happening and we fail to stop it. Because we just like how it is in those other nations. So we have to wake on that. So we import a lot into this country, particularly with food. And we are depending on other people to provide that food for us at a cost. And by the time it gets here, it's even higher still. When it get on the shelf, it's even higher still. So the cost for food goes up. The cost for fuel goes up. The cost of living goes up. But the money ain't gone up, Taylor. What happened to the money?
no, well, that can never go up.
Well,
But I can tell you,
how am I supposed to survive in a society where the cost keeps rising, but my paycheck doesn't rise?
it's it's a unfair world. Like, speaking on a good leader. If you look at the history of Gaddafi,
Yes.
I mean, Gaddafi basically he paid for education. He gave women 5,000 after childbirth. If the education is not in Libya, they could go abroad and get the education paid 100% by the government. He gave each one either a house or apartment. He said there'll be no homeless in Libya. So Gaddafi was running a solid program, but I understand that he got caught up in think it could be drugs or something. That's what they said.
Yeah.
But I just saying, like, in terms of his intention was really good because the education standard for Libya was really high during that time. But Iran and all of them, then that dictator, like, you look at the leader and he's driving up everything. He's so nice and nice cars, everything, and the people are ready to eat out the garbage.
Yeah.
And that's where you know what type of leader you have.
Of course.
You know,
It certainly
yeah. So that has been a problem. Like, take for instance, they said that in the Bahamas, a lot of people, like, they traveling a lot, but then people trying to get a place to stay.
Of course they're
Even
traveling.
the, it, yeah, even though the plane ticket costing like sometime over first class, maybe over a
Yes.
thousand,
They always travel first class.
and that's like 2 months of rent for somebody,
They don't catch the
you
jitney
know.
in them. They don't catch. But they say they're
Yeah,
leaders, Mr. Taylor. They don't catch
yeah,
no jitney.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? So this is why I keep saying to people, you watch the actions of those particular, but we have to be exercising caution. And I don't know how the Iranians and Israelis going to deal with this, but it would appear to me, from what I understand, democracy may be the best form of government we have, but it's how you manage it. And you have to make sure that dictatorial leaders do not stifle the growth in the particular country. Because The Iranians have this problem. In fact, I don't know that they were ever democratic. They never were, as far as I understand. The Israelis are supposed to be democratic. But then you have personalities who may rise to the top where they have dictatorial tendencies. And so, even though they may be given authority to run things, you have a problem when they decide they're not going to act in the best interest of the people. That's where trouble starts. And what do you do then? Do you sit and let them continue to do what they're doing, or do you rise up and stop them? Because sometimes a nation gets an impasse, Mr. Taylor. Who is going to give direction to that nation to make sound decisions and good judgments, even when the government of the day is not acting in their best interests? Because direction has to come from somewhere. You have a vacuum, and it has to
Yeah.
be filled, right? The
Yeah.
government of the day in a particular country, and this could be any country, we're looking at Iran and looking at Israel, and you even look at the Bahamas, and in the United States. If you got the Democrats saying one thing, you got the Republicans saying another thing. You got the states saying one thing against the federal government, and they are those who what they call these, what kind of cities they call them? I can't remember the exact wording, but cities where aliens are given refuge and protection. And then, of
Hmm.
course, the federal government looking for people who are criminals in the land and trying to rout them out. Because you had millions of people still in that country who are there legally. And this is what happens when you have war. You have these refugees flooding in, criminals coming over, some slip through the cracks. And all you need is just a couple of them, dangerous ones, not known, not known to the authorities in the land, and they create havoc for the people of that country. One bad apple
Yeah.
could spoil a whole bunch. Isn't that
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But some
Yes.
people
If
always,
you,
but Mr. Taylor, I hear this thing all the time. We only got a few bad apples. You mean to tell me you can't get them out the friggin' barrel? Well, what kind of crap is that? I keep,
only if they're on top.
I see. Okay. What if,
If they if they get on the middle, it's over. Cause now they blind. You don't know where they at.
okay. But this is why ISIS is having a problem right now because they're trying to find these people. They say millions of them in there. They got to get them out. And I admire leaders who decide to take some decisive stand against some things that have been going on for too long. I hear the music in the background. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. The lines are open 326-0271, 326-0272-813-0271. Babies, we want you to call in. We have Mr. Van Dyke Bennett Taylor, our special guest from Atlanta, Georgia. He's making an extremely good contribution. Today, I have to ask you to come on again, because you've been very useful with your information. I appreciate that. And Bahamians, we have to take advantage of the information when we get it. We got to decipher it, look at it, examine it, and see whether we want to walk that same road them other people are walking, because they're catching hell. This is Professor Sidney Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break. tell me I got the last part of the show, 30 minutes, Mr. Taylor. We got to see if we can get as much in this 30 minutes as we possibly can. The lines are open, Bahamians, 326-0271, 326-0272. When you see things like this happening that can impact the very lives of the Bahamian people, we have to take note of it, Bahamians. If we don't, we're going to find ourselves in some deep trouble. You don't want to be like Haiti. You don't want to be like Sudan. You don't want to be like the Gaza Strip. You don't want to be like Croatia. Because you have some very serious problems that have been developed in those countries, particularly speaking about Sudan, with two fellas over there, they fighting and all type, thousands of people have lost their lives. You think we could afford that here? If we lose one, that's one too many. Huh? Just someone decide to shoot somebody. Either they don't like them or they want to get something from them or what have you. These are petty, petty, petty-minded people who do those kinds of things. But we can even eliminate that, Bahamian. I can get more into that tomorrow because we got Brother Taylor here on our show today. Brother Taylor, I want to ask you a question. What is the view of the American public now about President Donald Trump? How do they see him? Is he being effective in running the affairs of that nation? He hasn't been there too long, but he has had an impact. Is that impact, as you understand it, better for America today? And what is the possible portent for the future with this president of the United States?
Well, at the beginning, you're gonna have a lot of resistance due to, like, anytime you're speaking on something that is the norm, like immigration. You had, just like in Nassau, they feeling the backlash too of it. You
Of
have
course.
people coming over, they declaring the wrong thing. Uh they a lot of stuff what they saying is untrue. So
Yeah.
what America doing now is they're exposing all truth to an individual. And what they doing now is, like, to even get a visa, you have to, what they call, you have to put your social media
Yes.
site to public.
Yes.
If you go ahead and you, like, cut off your social media site, that could be reason for denial also. So
Okay.
what they want to do is they want to see the real you, because they know over time you're going to see the people they're affiliated with, your comments and all that. So they want to know the people who they bringing in the country. And, like, if they see any, like, dislike for America or what have you, like that, they figure like that's a security concern.
Okay. Let me ask
You know.
this because I might have some difficulties with that. I'm a Bahamian citizen and I apply for an American visa. My country allows me, according to our Constitution, freedom to impart ideas and opinions without interference. The Constitution didn't say that the opinions and ideas I have in my head are to be constitutionally sound or even right.
Yeah.
It's wide open. And I try to get people to understand that. Now, if you're in constitutionally sound and you purport something to be constitutional, that's when I can get on your case.
Yeah.
But if you call and say, Professor, these are my personal views on this particular issue, fine. I have nothing to say to you because the Constitution says you can do that. I may not even comment on it. I will say thank you very much and move on.
Yeah.
Only time you're going to get in trouble with me is if you come on this radio station purporting something to be constitutionally sound. I ain't going to let you get away with that.
Yeah.
I have to stop you. Now, I in this country have a right to speak freely on anything. I don't want anyone messing around with that. I don't know how that's going to fit in when a person is applying for a visa or whatever. But I'm wondering whether some of the things they may be requiring might be an infringement on the constitutional rights and freedoms of persons in this particular country. Because we are not Americans. We are Bahamian citizens.
Not necessarily, not necessarily, because bear in mind the internet is an international site. Like here in America, if you do any crime on the internet, it's a federal crime because you crossing over different countries. Like so, how I'm calling in right now, I
Yeah.
just cross over an international site, so it becomes a federal crime. So
Wait a
so
minute now.
what
When you
how
say federal, wait, hold on now. Federal would apply what? To the United
it
States of America.
yeah, to United
Ain't
States,
got
not
no
the
federal thing.
Bahamas.
No, ain't no federal thing in the Bahamas.
No, I'm speaking like pertaining to America, being that we're speaking on the
Oh, you mean
visa
the
and
American
stuff
side?
like that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So what happened is like it's like, all right, let me give an illustration. What they would do, they would have a state would make marijuana smoking legal.
Right.
Some some for recreation, and then some you could only use it unless you have like what they call prescription to smoke it, right? On whatever reason they make a prescription. Well, anyway, but another law, which is the federal law, they prohibits marijuana like to be smoked by anyone. So what happens is it's a tricky thing. So what they do, that's why a person could be using marijuana in the state, and then the federal government come there and they could be breaking the law, not even knowingly, because they say, but the state said it's legal to smoke it, but then the federal government say no. So what that means is that when you use it now, you have to know that you open up the door to be arrested. You understand? And
Well, okay. Well, I see where you're going with that. But does the state have the authority to do what it's doing when it comes to matters like that?
yes, they could authorize it, but then the because bear in mind, you could be a Democrat and you could run a state, and I could be the president and I'm Republican. So it's not like you and I together. We could have two different views, but you might be in charge of the state, but I'm in charge of the overall every state, you know. And that has been a conflict with those type decisions, that most of the time the state can be run by a Democrat. He might won the seat. So with that being said, is that if you say anything, because they have different laws, like in terms of pertaining to immigration law, that you cannot obtain a green card and then you be talking bad with the US government or what have you. The same in the Bahamas, more than likely that could be international, because it becomes a conflict of interest. Oh, I don't like what the government doing. I don't like this. I don't like the next thing. I don't like the president, stuff like that. And the question to you is, so why are you coming here? Why don't I tell you what, we're gonna help you. We're gonna deny you and just stay in your country. And then you say, why? Because you said all these things. Why are you coming here? You don't like us. So that's the thing, because with a lot of the you have to raise up your right hand when you get in these like residents,
Yeah.
when you get in this residency, US citizen, you have to denounce with US citizen. It's a lot of stuff involved. So it is be technically a conflict of interest. Like if you're
No, it would
talking about
be.
yeah.
No, it would
So
be.
that's why so what they would do, they'd take your words and just use it against you and just say, but you said this. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is your comment. And they'll ask you, and now you can never come to the United States. And that's how they get you. They'll ask you something what they already know about. They say they'll put something in front of you. Did you say these things? And if
Okay.
you say no, and they can prove that you said yes, you might never ever, because if you lie to a federal agent that's in front of you, that's a major felony, and you can't travel no more, maybe in the United States. They might just deny you every time. Yeah, so it's a lot of tricky thing to this. But the students, they was just what they was trying to do. They was trying to like control the students coming into America. Because they realized that they're the ones what is do all the killing. It's the
Yes.
students what do the domestic violence and all that. They normally come on a student visa from these dangerous areas, because that's the only way there's get in. There's getting through being a student. Yeah.
Okay. No, well, I'm not against the United States protecting their national interests, but I hope they don't take it to the point where um, they're infringing on the constitutional rights, because you have different laws in different nations. And I don't think anything that I have said on the radio would have at any time be an attack on the authorities in that particular country. But at the same time, I have to be responsible with my freedom of expression, freedom to impart ideas and opinions without interference.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
I do not believe it is proper to come to the United States to downgrade the president of that country or even the system of that country and expect to benefit by having the opportunity to visit, to live, to work, and to do other things there in that particular country.
Yeah.
Because you become a danger to that particular nation because you're not prepared to abide by the rules. That's a whole lot
Yeah.
in color.
Yeah.
We don't
Uh-huh.
want it. We don't want people, and I don't know how they're going to deal with it, but you don't want people using their authority to take advantage of people. And, you have to draw the line somewhere. And I think the people of the Bahamas will have to be educated on what it is that the immigration authorities are looking for when you apply for a visa. If
But
things
you,
change.
but just to piggyback on what you were saying, is that bear in mind, a lot of these laws are already in place. But what happened is, because it's not being enforced, right? It's not common. And then you have social media, what could really push it out quicker to people.
Okay.
But during the drug era, they used to search people even more and stop them from traveling because of drugs and stuff like that. But because they control the drug era, they start to open up the doors more and more each day. And now a lot of students, they don't even know that when you cross that yellow line, when they said you're in US territory, you have to bear in mind that now you with their rules and regulations. You don't have the same right as the citizen, like going back and forth with a guy who could deny you like
Okay.
entry into the line, because they give him full power to do so, and he could do it without prejudice. He could just like, look, I don't feel, and he don't even have to have no full facts. He could just go on just like intelligence, just say, I don't feel as though we want to bring you inside the country because, and he could just use logic with no really straight facts, because that's the power what he has,
I've
you
noticed
know.
even when before it came up, you had on the paper, and I remember this quite well, when I was traveling to the United States quite often, they had it right at the bottom of the page that the officer who you may speak to could deny you entrance into the United States, even though you have the visa in your passport.
Yeah.
I've known that for years. And of course, now things have changed drastically since then. And with the way how the world is going now, I can understand their concern that they're trying to protect the interests of their country. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think we ought to do the same thing here. You want to avoid having people come in who can become troublemakers in your land to cause confusion, because you have to protect the interests of the people. But at the
Hmm.
same time, you don't want that authority, because there's always the possibility, particularly in a discretionary situation. Fella might have had a bad day. His sweetheart didn't sleep with him last night. So he had a bad night. And so you are the one to have to prepare before this particular personality, because it happened to a relative of mine. I just mark up the whole passport. But for that particular personality, that personality was able to come home. The very next day, that particular personality was on the plane back into the United States. Do you hear what I just say?
Yeah.
Now, that was good for that particular individual, but that doesn't happen like that for the average Bahamian.
No.
See what I'm saying? So, so I just hope that whoever they may be, that we could have more clarity as to what it is that the arrangement is for me to get a visa so I can comply with it. Now, nobody ain't going to interfere in my freedom of expression. I ain't giving it up for nobody because the Constitution says that is what I have, and I have to handle that wisely. I can hold that tight to my chest.
Yeah.
Okay, that's me. Mr. Taylor, make your closing remarks. My producer is being very patient with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 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 Just speaking back on that immigration thing, just to let the Bahamas know, and I'm no specialist, but just from my experience, is that the laws is just being enforced now. Like what happened is like the stuff what they used to get away with, they just being more specific in terms of what you're doing. Like you'll be sitting down waiting on a visa in America and you overstay your time. So what they'll do, they'll call the federal government and say, hey, he overstayed time. One time ago, they would let that go and say, we'll give you the visa anyway. So now what they'll do, the federal government will come in and they report and say, hey, this guy overstayed his time, but he's trying to get the visa. They used to give it to you in the past, but now they would say, hey, we're going to arrest you and deport you
Yeah.
because you've violated the immigration law and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Well, I want to thank you for your participation because I got to get off this radio station right now.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. And of course, we will meet up again. But continue to listen to the show when you can. And if you may want to even call
definitely.
in, you can call in from time to time. But
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for your participation. And thank you for being a guest on the show today. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson. Now, tomorrow, of course, is open line. And I know some of you want to talk some politics. Tomorrow, I can enjoy that. But there are some specific things I want to outline, particularly party versus government, because a lot of you don't seem to understand that. Parliamentary representation versus party representation. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. Have a pleasant afternoon. Pray to God, Bahamians. We got to get it right once and for all in the Commonwealth of Bahamas. This is Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. Have a pleasant afternoon.